Now, looking at this clip here, you can see the average positions of the ball movement of Chelsea, and what you can probably see is something like a horseshoe, a U kind of effect. And what you notice is that the half spaces have actually been left blank in this kind of an attacking structure. And when you look at the average passing range between Chelsea and Palace, you see that Chelsea's passes were mainly sideways, and backwards, while Palace's were more direct and looking more to hit Chelsea in transition. And that overall sums up the game between Chelsea and Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace set themselves up in a 5-2-3 mid block, preventing any central ball progression from Chelsea. So, how did Palace actually do this effectively, and why Chelsea struggled? Now, when you look at the average positions of Chelsea's player, you find that there were a lot of players crowding towards the left, especially Fernandes and Cole Palmer in this case. Cucurella was supposed to assist Gittens down the left, was not quite available. But the pressing issue was the clear absence of Levi Colwill and Tosin Adrabai, because a lot of people tend to underestimate the role that Colwill actually plays at Chelsea. And Maresca has even said this, trying to inform the sporting directors that Colwill is one of the huge facets in his attack. Now, when you look at this structure here, what you notice is that Palace decided to go man-to-man against Chelsea on all areas of the pitch, looking to try and stop Chelsea from building up from the onset. And how does Colwill actually solve this problem? I just want to talk a brief about Colwill. Now, when you look at this structure, you see Chelsea building with a 3. And you see a team deciding to go man-to-man with Chelsea. But look at Colwill. He makes a pass that is able to take out the opposition's midfield and attacking lines and actually find Chelsea moving forward. I just want you to see some of this clip on how Colwill actually unlocks teams pressing through one simple pass. Here again, Colwill has the ball, simple pass, and is able to unlock and actually beat Nottingham Forest front and midfield lines. Even under pressure, Colwill is able to make a pass that is able to unlock Chelsea, putting Chelsea in a situation where they are actually attacking with numbers. Colwill is also very important in Chelsea's build-up, does not make the easy pass, but rather he makes the line-breaking pass that takes opponents out of the game. Now, understanding this, you'll realize that despite this, Chelsea have really struggled against Palace. Last season, Chelsea managed to secure just 2 draws against Palace. And this is because of Glasner's excellent positional structure that made it so difficult for Chelsea. Now, Eze had an opportunity to actually win the game for Crystal Palace. However, we know that the VAR actually stepped in to save Chelsea, and that's why Chelsea can even be grateful for getting a point in this game. If you are new in this channel, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Share it with your friends and follow me on all social media platforms. Now, Maresca's lineup was a 4-2-3-1 structure, as I had predicted, though I had missed that Tosin was actually left out of this game and Acheampong actually started. Now, the structure that Maresca used in attack was that 3-1-3-3 structure that is usually famed for by Enzo Marcelo Bielsa and Pep Guardiola. We also saw him using a range of these tactics last season. Now, what Palace did is that they ensured they always had their 3 front players pressing Chelsea's centre-backs and denying the centre-backs the space. The midfield was also covered with Wharton sticking on Caicedo and Hughes sticking on Cole Palmer. While on the side of Cucurella, it was the wide centre-back was to step out and cover him. You can see here even Caicedo has now moved into the backline to try and even up numbers for Chelsea because the midfield has just totally been left closed by Crystal Palace. I have to give it to Crystal Palace. They did an excellent job man-marking Chelsea. But I do believe that Maresca should have actually shifted into a more like a 4-4-2 actually creates a lot of problems for a back 3. And it's something that I didn't see Maresca actually doing perfectly to actually capitalize on this. And whenever the Chelsea centre backs look to pick players in between the lines, Crystal Palace wide centre backs were so aggressive in stepping out and actually preventing that player to have any time and space on the ball. So just want to show you something on how Crystal Palace structure was so difficult for Chelsea to counter. Now, the 4-2-3-1 that Chelsea looked to use was quite interesting in that the Palace team was not so aggressive in the way they looked to press Chelsea initially, but rather were looking to be more passive and more relaxed. So that really created a lot of problems for Chelsea. And how did Palace's passiveness create problems? You see, the wide players from Chelsea were being covered by the wing backs. The three attacking players in zone 14 were being covered by one wide centre back and the two midfielders, while the front three, their main job was to ensure that whenever Chelsea centre backs progress with the ball inside Crystal Palace's half, they immediately engage in a press. So one thing I was so annoyed with by Chelsea is the way the centre backs did not actually look to progress the ball. And I have no problem with that because Chalobah playing down the left, he's more likely to pass the ball in field rather than passing the ball wide because he's not left-footed. Now, if Cucurella played as a wide centre back down the left, he would have opened up the left channel better. Also, players and wingers, especially like Gittens, did not inspire much when they received the ball down the left. And this is because they were also isolated courtesy of the position that Cucurella was occupying. Now, Palace decided to maintain a hexagonal 5-man attack that clogged Chelsea's midfield and prevented Chelsea from actually looking to progress the ball through the middle. The front three were aggressive whenever Chelsea's centre backs looked to cross into Crystal Palace's half. Look at this structure. Look at Josh. Josh decides to step with the ball so that he can draw in Mateta from his position. And the main aim for Palace was to ensure that whenever Chelsea looked to cross inside Crystal Palace's own half, Crystal Palace will be super hyper aggressive and touch tight on Chelsea, so that it will force Chelsea to actually play the ball back to the goalkeeper and restart their attack once again. And that is what Crystal Palace want. Here, Josh has the ball, and you can see the position of Chalobah and Reece James. Josh steps out with the ball to try and draw in Mateta into that press. Mateta presses Josh. Josh has no option, plays the ball to Chalobah down that left-hand side. And look at how Cucurella and Enzo have been marked out of the game. They have been marked out so that even when the ball is played towards Reece James, Eze steps out to press Reece James. Mateta is looking to step out and press Josh, who plays the ball to Chalobah. Chalobah receives the ball and Sarr is already moving towards pressing Chalobah. And Cucurella, who could receive the ball, is already now being pressed by the wide centre back. And what you notice is that now Chalobah has no option rather than to play the ball back to Josh, who actually Mateta is looking to press aggressively. Now here Josh receives the ball. Mateta is looking to apply pressure, and look at Caicedo. Now Acheampong decides to attempt a line-breaking pass because he spots Cole Palmer in space. Now you see here, if you have Colwill is going to make this pass and actually break the Crystal Palace press. But what happens is that Josh attempts this pass. This pass is intercepted by Eze, and now Crystal Palace are now moving from a position where they are defending to a position where they are attacking. And now a swift counter-attack is being initiated by Crystal Palace. And what you notice is that the way Chelsea were looking to build up was where the problem is in the first place. Now, because of this, what we notice is that Chelsea, in my opinion, should have adjusted their structure, because this structure was not allowing Chelsea any space. Because whenever Chelsea received the ball in the backline, Crystal Palace would allow Chelsea's defenders to progress. But immediately they approached the half, then Crystal Palace would begin to engage. And when Crystal Palace decided to press Chelsea aggressively high, this is where Crystal Palace actually got opened up by Chelsea. Because now Chelsea will be able to exploit that space between the Palace's lines. But look at how narrow Crystal Palace's front three are. They are preventing the ball to go from Caicedo or Marco Correa. And you can see that Chelsea's back three is playing narrow. This is where the problem is. When you are playing in this structure, you are creating spaces for the opposition to actually create problems. If Chelsea decided to spread their centre backs out wide, then they would stretch that front three and actually create spaces in midfield. And you can see how touch tight the two Crystal Palace midfielders are on Cucurella and Caicedo, meaning that even the central options for these defenders is not available. And because of this, Chelsea constantly found themselves in problems whenever they looked to shaft the ball and try to do something with the ball out wide. Now, one way Chelsea were looking to try and beat this press was by having both Fernandes and Palmer creating numerical overloads against Hughes, but Hughes was much more concerned on preventing Palmer from having the ball. And Fernandes, who was receiving the ball in these instances and scenarios, would receive the ball, but sometimes his touch would be bad, and the wide centre back would step out and win that ball. And this was creating problems. And also, Josh Achenkpong was not spotting the runs being made by Chelsea's forwards. And because he was not doing this sometimes created a lot of problems for Chelsea, because if you're not able to pick runners in behind, then you mean that the opposition can now relax. And I cannot blame Josh. It's because sometimes it just comes with the experience on playing games week in, week out. And these are things that Tosin and Levi Colwill have, which make them superior to Josh in that position. Now, Crystal Palace was so well drilled in the way they would look to adjust, and Chelsea sometimes will drop their wingers to receive the ball. But Crystal Palace's wingbacks, especially Mitchell, was so touch tight on a player like Pedro Neto. And this just showcases how effective Crystal Palaces were. The ball is played to Reece James. Reece James is looking to play the ball to Pedro Neto. Neto receives this ball, and you can see immediately he's being pressed. Here, Chalobah receives the ball, and now they understand that Chalobah is receiving the ball and looking to play a penetrative pass in field. Chalobah is looking to play, and look at where the position that Hughes is at. Hughes is playing in that central position where he's able to intercept any pass from Trevor Chalobah. Now, once the ball is played here, Hughes is able to intercept this ball courtesy of his position. And once he intercepts this ball, because the ball was actually being played to Caicedo, who is not able to control the ball, Hughes wins it, plays the ball to Mateta, and now Crystal Palace are again finding themselves in a situation where they are effectively countering against Chelsea. And this was creating problems for Chelsea, because even Chelsea did not have a lot of shots on target. Now, Maresca will need to adapt. My remedy for this situation was to move Chelsea into a back four. Just have Reece James and Cucurella playing wide, and then have the wide wingers, so that now you move into a 4-3-3, so that when you have wide fullbacks, what it means is that you're going to draw Eze and Sarr out of position and actually create spaces in midfield. My situation during the game was similar to the club legend Eden Hazard, and that was of a disappointment. But hopefully Chelsea will work on this. Leave your comments in the comment section area below if you agree with me, and thanks for watching.